image that you have in your head when you think about asking for donations? Sometimes it's kind of humbling, right? We feel like we constantly have our hand out and we're asking for something. That is why we have this session dedicated to making the ask. How many people would rather have a root canal than ask for donations? Without Novocaine. It can be a process very much like pulling teeth at times. I understand that. What I'm going to do, I'm going to give you a few suggestions today on what not to do. I'm going to give you 4 key elements on what you can do. This will help you with your campaign. Then we're going to open it up. I have some beneficial information for you on giving and volunteering. And then we're going to have a question and answer session at the end. As ambassadors, you guys are in a fantastic position. I understand, on one hand, you do have to ask for donations. But on the other hand, and this is how I want you to view it, you have an opportunity. You have an opportunity to not only learn more about your coworkers and people that you're sharing, 5 days a week with, but you have an opportunity to help millions of people in need. And that's what I want you to focus on, because that is what is really, truly most important right here. Have you ever had a rough day at the office and you're wondering what difference your being there even makes? You might be staring at your cubicle wall and you're thinking, what am I doing? Well, if you contribute through the payroll deduction, you're making a difference. You're giving a kid a second lease on life. A cancer patient is able to look in the mirror for the first time after a chemo treatment with a new wig that they would never be able to afford on their own. Gallons of chemicals are being cleaned up from our oceans. And all you have to do is sit there and do your job. That's how you're making a difference, without even leaving your desk. It's an opportunity to reach beyond ourselves. And the reality is this: 50% of the world lives on less than $2.50 a day. That's proof that you don't have to throw a lot of money to a cause to make a difference. Now I'm going to give you some ideas on what not to do and how not to approach people. Don't wave a tin cup in their face. I guarantee you no one will like that. Don't scoff at any amount that they offer to give, or if they offer to volunteer their time. And also, don't guilt people into making donations. Instead, I'm going to ask you to give, and I want you to remember this acronym, okay? G in give. Get to know your coworkers before you ask them for money. Because guess what? When we find out people's passions, we're going to find out what makes them tick. And guess what? People's passions has a direct line to their pocketbook. And if we don't know what they are, how are we going to know to help them? Secondly, I inform them of their options. Now, what was it today? There's 1,960 charities, I heard, involved in the SECA program. Even if it's your full-time job, you're not going to know everything about every one of these programs. However, if you're familiar with the booklet and you get to know the people with whom you're working, you can at least point them in a direction. I is also inventory. V, validation. We could all benefit from this, right? I think the world would be a better place with more validation all the way around. But validate their answer, even if the answer is no thank you, not right now. Because sometimes people need time to think. And sometimes they just need to drive home and mull things over. And I guarantee you, they're not going to want to come back if they feel that they're being laughed at or if they're not feeling validated in their choice. So honor their decision. And E, every amount matters. I can't stress this enough. How many people have given to maybe your kid, and they look at it and, oh, only 20 bucks? How does that make you feel? You know, we live in this world where We feel we have to throw a lot of money at a cause. But if we can validate people and if we can let them know that any amount, whether it is their time, whether it is their money, it matters and it makes a difference. That's imperative. Ultimately, what everybody is doing here is making a difference, one person at a time. And I want you to know that because I understand. It can seem like a droning process at times. Oh, I've got to ask for more money. This department's doing so much better than mine. You know, we tend to look at things as a competition, but it's not. And what I encourage you to do is reach beyond yourself. All right? How many people here have an I story of why you're an ambassador? How many people know what an I story is? Okay, an I story can also be called a why story. And that is your motivation for being here. All right, if you're here because your boss told you to do it, because you had nothing better to do, I encourage you right now to find another way of looking at this whole campaign thing. I want you to own it. I want you to find your reason. What motivates you to be sitting in these chairs? I know you have better things that you could be doing with your time if you are not really in it with your heart right now. What is your I story? Allow yourself to get a little vulnerable with it too. You know, we just heard from somebody who was a participant of the services. That's her motivation. What's your motivation? Find it. Know it. Because that enthusiasm is going to ignite other people with whom you are talking to. If your heart's not in it, it's like being a captain of a ship and no one's going to want to get on board because they don't know where you're going. So chart your course in that regard. And if you're still running into some apprehension from people, times are tough. Here's something you can pull out of your back pocket. How many people have heard of a Helper's High? Oh, we have one. Yay! Thank you. Okay. Helper's High, I have a resource page that I will be handing out when I'm done here. And what it is talking about how donating helps you physically and emotionally and spiritually. Altruism is good for the body, mind, and spirit. And I actually have some scientific evidence backing this up. So for people that are wondering what is possibly in it for them, in addition to going beyond themselves and helping several people, there are several health benefits involved. On squidoo.com, they say that altruism or volunteering, giving back, or reaching out to help eases the stress in the body, which results in these beneficial health factors: strengthening the immune system, a decrease in both the intensity and awareness of physical pain, activation of the emotions that are vital to the maintaining good health, reduction of the incidence of attitudes such as chronic hostility that negatively arouse and damage the body, the multiple benefits to the body's systems provided by stress relief, experiencing a helper's high, a rush of euphoria, followed by a longer period of calm after performing a kind act. That's kind of cool. This initial rush from a helper's high is followed by a longer lasting period of improved emotional well-being. And there's a release of the body's natural painkillers, the endorphins, as part of the helper's high. How many people have seen the movie Pay It Forward? Are you familiar with this? This kid has a social studies project, and he figures out that he's going to help 3 unsuspecting people. And in turn, all he wants is for those 3 people to help 3 additional people. And it spreads like wildfire because there is this rush within us when we help others. And the media has caught on this more frequently, and the feeling stirs within us, and we are releasing dopamine into our system. This action, get this, it reduces depression, aids in weight control, lowers the risk of heart attack, and still helps other people. We are designed to help others. How awesome is that? There was a lady in 2009, her name was Ms. Walker, and she was diagnosed with MS. as many people with a diagnosis, you tend to become depressed, physically and emotionally and spiritually. And so she went to a holistic counselor, and this counselor gave her a challenge. Every day for 1 month, she was to reach beyond herself. So one day she put a chocolate on her husband's pillow. Another day she called a friend who she knew was having a hard time. She volunteered at a hospital. What she found after that month was over was not a cure, but a relief from her symptoms. We are designed to help others. In 2007, Syracuse University did a study that showed that 42% of givers were more likely than non-givers to say that they were very happy, and 25% more likely to report excellent health. The study concluded that the positive emotions from giving left less room for negative emotions. Kind of like what Michelle Sadler was saying earlier today about positivity and just having an uplifting attitude. It makes a difference. Here's why it works though. When our bodies are stressed, we release a hormone called cortisol, which releases that fight or flight response. And when we give, dopamine is activated in our brain. The helper's high then gains dominance over the stress response, which increases immunity and antibodies in our system. Bob Hope, who was an entertainment pioneer, also coined this statement, and I really think he was onto something, even though he said it several years ago. He said, if you haven't got any charity in your heart, you have the worst kind of heart trouble. So how do you ask? First of all, get high. The helper's high. Your enthusiasm is truly going to ignite to the people around you. Look at Cindy. Where is Cindy? We love you, Cindy. Let's give Cindy a round of applause. Know your I story. Figure out why you're here and what's motivating you, because that's really what's going to drive this campaign. Remember to give to your coworkers. Get to know them. Inform them of their options. Validate their decision. And remember that every amount matters. And for goodness sake, hang up the tin cup.